can we improve goal setting in a way that gets more buy-in? Because I think a lot of PTs will say, hey, I don't have any trouble setting goals. I have functional goals. I have those all the time. They're SMART goals. We talk about it all the time. So what is it that we're talking about exactly?
Well, I'll think about when I was out in the community seeing PTs is they propose all these exercise plans. And they're super helpful. They're meant to strengthen. They're meant to, connect pieces that are kind of disjointed, improve. But some of those things aren't exactly what the patients would see themselves doing.
Right, right.
And so it doesn't feel very functional or applicable to them.
So let me give you.
You're thinking about how can I modify or find some sort of movement that they find that they could see themselves doing or that they enjoy. And then asking them what are their values around movement and what would be some activities in their life that they want to get back to.
So let me give you some examples from today. Like today we were counseling some students and we were all kind of in there doing that, right? And so like today, like one of the encounters, the person said that they were in these Zoom calls all the time, and immediately then when the therapist gave them the exercises, they gave them all sitting, thinking, oh, this is really great because you can do them during your Zoom calls or between your Zoom calls for your hip. And they never once asked the patient or interacted with the patient in any way to ask them if that was their preference. Or if they even wanted to do those exercises in sitting or related to their Zoom calls. I mean, if you're in Zoom calls all day, the most thing you might want to do is not do more Zoom calls and not sit, right? And you could do many other different things like a yoga mat or take a walk or something like that, or you get outside or whatever it is, right? But that interaction never occurred in the encounter with the patient, right?
Clarifying what's most important to the patient. The PTs that did that were able to significantly increase the amount of activity that the patient was willing to do.
Oh, interesting.
And so we saw that increase, talking about this idea of buy-in. Buy-in is getting them to believe that they, A, have the ability to do it, and B, have the desire to do it.
I love that. The ability to do it, right? Because that's like
Right.
really going to drive them to like work harder on their one rep
Right.
max or push harder
Right.
because they believe their bodies can
Right.
handle it, right?
And it's whether or not they actually have the actual ability, it's the belief in it, or the belief that they could get to it.
Right, right.
And for a lot of the patients that did have a PT ask about or confirm, hey, you're wanting to get back home, and that's one of these reasons why you need to improve your leg strength or you need to get back to walking.
Yeah.
These are the patients that were clearly pushing themselves more in the appointment, that when asked about how things had gone, between the last session and this time, were the ones that were reporting the most effort in their work. And it seems like that was something that you could see a difference between PTs that did clarify or at least confirm it, that what was really important or ask about what was really important, and the ones that didn't.
So that's something I think a lot of PTs would want to buy into. Like, as you said, who doesn't want patients that are pushing hard on the agenda that they're setting together? I mean, that's like a perfect world, right, for a PT life, right? Let's get back now. Let's go to this moment when
hot seat here.
Because some of this stuff we talked about, these are like some key things that we just randomly hit on.
And it's really cool because when you guys are talking about like what's really important to hit on, I'm like, oh, I've been doing that, and I've been teaching the students that I've had around me, and of course I'm not perfect, and I'm very vulnerable with them and telling them like I'm working on my summary statements at the end of the session, gathering like what are some big takeaways for you, and the patient has so they have more empowerment rather than me encouraging and rah-rah cheerleading them the whole time, because PTs have it's a great reputation, but they've got a reputation for being like really motivating, really like they want a good relationship with their patients. We're really, love exercise, love activity and all this, but at the same time, we think we're doing the best for the patient when we're really actually not evoking their own desire to move and their own wishes in what their life should look like. We love to say, here are your exercises. These are going to help you. I know, and let me educate you on your body. And it's like we fire hose our patients rather than actually evoking like what's important to you and how many of these do you think you can do at home, rather than saying here's 3 sets of 10, do these exercises. Instead saying like what would make you more successful at your home with some of these exercises to get you back to doing X, Y, or Z. Then they tell you, the patients will tell you most of the time what they want, sometimes they'll tell you even what's wrong with them. They may not know their diagnosis, but they'll tell you the things that are important to them if you listen. And then that's where I think the reflection statements, the summary statements are important. So, gosh, I'm so good at open-ended questions, but making the statements and actually like evoking this response out of the patient was so hard for me. Like I could not make a statement because I felt so awkward sitting
So
there
this
with
is
them.
this is great reveal, right? 'Cause,
Oh, man.
it's super,
Yes.
it is. I think it's super hard too. When I
Yeah.
first learned how to do reflections, I found that incredibly difficult and scary.
Yes, really
Right.
strong in my ability to connect with people. But I think what I was missing and what got brought up is just my, like, missing the mark on, so I'll just give an example, because stories sometimes are easier than giving
Yeah,
too
yeah.
much, like, definition, whatever,
Or-
academic
Go.
background.
Yeah.
But
Yep.
so I had an ACL patient who's trying to get back to rock climbing, and I've been working with him already for like 2.5 months maybe, and prior to his surgery, so I'd known him for a while, and I had never gotten to the depth that I did when I asked him, so what are your biggest takeaways from our session today? I'd never asked him this before, and so he told me, it was really discouraging. And I'd seen him perform well, like he was learning, he was activating his quad, he was doing all these cool things that we had never really practiced before. And I had to sit with him in that and say, first I didn't know what to say. It was like, he just told me that he's discouraged. He let me in on something that I didn't know. And so I tried to summarize. So it sounds like you didn't perform as well as you would have liked to. And he said, yeah, I didn't realize how much weaker I was on my surgical leg than my other leg.
Can I just, because I was
Yeah,
there,
yeah,
so I remember this
yeah,
case.
jump
This
in.
was super, because at the time I remember myself, and
Yeah.
I think you too,
Yeah.
we were all psyched
Yes.
because we have the protocol in front of us and we know
Oh, yeah.
where he should be, and we thought he's killing it.
Yeah.
This guy's killing it. He's like ahead. We're
Yeah,
great therapists. We're doing the right thing. And you had the
Totally.
agenda totally down.
Yeah.
And then you're giving the after visit summary. You're expecting him to say, you guys are amazing.
This is awesome.
And he says,
I'm really discouraged.
and we're just like,
What?
bam.
Like, at first I wanted to say, no, you did great. That was awesome. Of course, that like we have this writing response of like, we want to boost them because it's hard to sit in the valley that they're in right then. And so instead of trying to correct what I'm learning or to have that writing response, is you can summarize and then you can even ask a follow-up question. So, okay, so you didn't perform like you expected to. Like, what does that tell you about your leg? It's like, it tells me we still have a really long way to go, or we still have more to go on my strength. And so it gives insight then to like, okay, so he says he needs more strength. That's what we can focus on next time. So that